Philosopher is the ninth full-length album from Aeternus. This is a Bergen, Norway-based dark metal band. And when I say dark metal, I mean that is kind of their own invention in the sense that they produce a form of black metal that is influenced by death metal first and foremost, which is also inspired by Scandinavian folk music and a little bit of progressive music as well. Now, for they're at their ninth record. There have been many lives lived in Aeternus, and I think that their first and most classic era is going to be that mid to late '90s. Those first three albums they put out, which are, by my measure, they're absolute classics. I think their first record is one of the most impressive kind of black metal albums of that era and that scene from Bergen at that time, and that's a lot to contend with. And they only get better from there with their second album, and yeah, it's that's not to underplay or undersell what Eternus did beyond that point, because they did kind of take on a sort of Nile influenced Black Death sound that was brutal. It was very appropriate for the early 2000s. It was a much bolder step than a lot of their peers took. A lot of their peers kind of ducked out or just kind of leaned into other things, and this was one of the only bands that fully rushed out and created death metal records, and they put out four of them, which were pretty substantial, before they took an extended break beyond 2006 and returned with a more classic meld of those sounds in 2013. Well, the reason that I sort of try to touch upon the cumulative history of this band up front and spend the time on it is because I'm a huge fan of this band, and because I think you're not going to understand the nuance of this new record if you haven't lived some of these lifetimes with the band, unless you loved Heathen and never listened to anything else they put out beyond 2018 or before 2018. It's close enough to that last record where the sound will be just as enchanting, and this is a little bit less progressive, a little bit more aggressive, as if you will. So we'll cut into a song here to show you some of the more aggressive but thoughtful side of this record. So a lot of these same people, the same contributors for the last album are here for this one. So it really is the nuance of just different songs, different subjects, and a little bit of a different style of narrative that change what they had produced with Heathen. I think the biggest thing is that this is obviously a record where you need the lyrics. It's going to matter a lot. It is named Philosopher, and I think that having the lyrics would have made a huge difference with my analysis of this record. So as is, I had to go with the fact that I really do love this band, that it sold it to me, and it's because their style, the signature rhythm guitar work of Aries and or Aries, if you will, is very much like an intoxicating presence. It has a lot of history to it, and there's a lot of variation available to those progressivisms of the late 90s and the aggression of the 2000s. All of it makes its way in here in the same subtle but kind of deceptively extravagant way that we find on Heathen is amplified here. So there's breaks into jazz fusion. There's some very expressive drumming throughout. There's a lot of strange vocal lines and ideas here. And again, I can't comment on the lyrics because I don't have them yet. So basically, you're getting, I guess it's not quite Heathen Part 2. I think this is a different subject. It is a different exploration. I think that the band have done a great job of integrating more aggressive drumming, something that's a little bit more extreme on this record. If it was less like a progressive, sort of jazz-influenced minimalism as the last record had, and this is a little bit more in your face and black metal, if you will. And it makes the case for the own unique sound from Aeternus. So otherwise, I think it's just overall uh, a great record for my own taste. I didn't find the album art was all that readable at first, and I'm not sure on the lasting value of the record because there's no obvious pull back to it yet. But as is, it's easy to recommend for fans of the band. Now, if you're not a fan, the recommendation will just be a general high recommendation. Or if you don't know the band and you don't have the context, it's going to feel like a very subtle, droning record that arrives at a lot of the same pace and at the same diction too. So a lot of what you get will be a little bit of a flat line throughout, unless you really have the muscle memory for the band. You understand the references in there, and you appreciate the technique that is fairly original that they bring with each of the musicians involved. So this is one I think both for the fan who's looking to go deeper with the group, and it should be interesting as a first way into the group, but I wouldn't recommend starting here. I would go back in time to the late 90s and start there if you don't know the band. So, good record. Go ahead and check it out. It's out on Friday. And read my review for a lot more observations on it.